Olivia, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you. This is very interesting.
Well, I first read your story or a little bit of your story on one of the issues of D Magazine here locally in the Dallas
Yeah.
area. And
Hmm.
I just thought, oh, how cool. You're doing some really cool things. And when I saw your story, it made me think of my dad's mom. Both my sides of my family in Mexico grew corn. And I
Okay.
remember the corn being different colors, not just
Hmm.
yellow. And one of the activities we would do with my grandmother is they would be dry corn and we had this round thing made of corn husks and we would like shave them or yeah, so like to get the
The
dry corn
kernels.
off.
The
Yeah.
kernels.
Yeah, the kernels and then we would and then she would sell them or she would grind them to make things at home. And so it just brought me back to all of that story. So I would love to learn more about your story, Olivia. Tell me as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's a good question. It's funny because I wanted to be a dancer.
Ah.
So when I was around 6 or 7, I create a group with my schoolmates and my sister and my younger sister, my cousins. My older cousin was her teacher. And it's pretty funny because we used to go to the fairs, to the city fairs. We will get booked, and people like will go and see us
Oh,
dance
that's
everywhere. And we did raffles to get money for our uniforms. After our classes, we will go take a break and then go back to my grandma's house and like dance over there and
that's
practice.
amazing.
Well, obviously, I'm not a dancer anymore, but I feel it's almost like bringing community, gathering everyone with a purpose.
I love that. For the audience who doesn't know who you are and what you do you mind sharing what you do today?
Yeah, so we own this company called Molino Olōyō. Basically, we dedicate ourselves to bring heirloom corn from Mexico and then use do the whole nixtamalization process, turn it into masa, and showcase all the possibilities that there with corn, with masa, basically
Mm,
from sweets, tamales, tortillas to all the extension and all the varieties that you can find once you go to Mexico. The
mm,
other thing that we do is we have a small farm where we combine all the seasonal ingredients that we get from there or from local sources because we don't have everything. And that's our main offer. I try to get local as much as I can. I have only one rule: corn has to be heirloom and it has to be from Mexico.
and how did for people who don't know, what does heirloom corn mean?
So heirloom corn is ancestral seeds. I've told this to people before. When I was growing up, I only saw yellow, white, unless my mom will take us to smaller communities to have
Mm,
lunch or brunch. Because I'm from Colima, so we have two volcanoes. So we used to go eat closer to the volcano. They're
mm,
very small communities, and that's when I start seeing blue corn, which is
mhm,
popular here too. But with mass production, all the smaller farmers almost disappear. They just became smaller and smaller and smaller because all the GMO corn basically took over the market. And now there's been this movement that I've been following for, maybe 10 years, 8 years. That's when I started realizing
mm,
what we were missing, at least my generation. My mother knows a little bit about it. She's like, "Oh, I grew up with blue corn, and your grandma used to do all these things." And I'm like, "I don't know anything. I want to know more. I
mm.
want to be able to learn from indigenous says that we're made by corn, and it makes so much sense. All the different products or byproducts that you get for the whole corn, the plant, and everything. We use everything. So that's what heirloom corn is. It's an ancestral seed, basically. And that's why
Mm.
you'll see all different varietals, colors, sizes, shapes, all of it. Each one has very different content, basically.
Oh, that's beautiful. And how did you decide that that was what was going to be your focus, Olivia? How did you, I mean, you seemed interested in it. Your mom seemed to know a little bit about it. How did you make
Um,
that connection?
so I came here when I was 19 years old. I
Mm,
knew I wanted to go to cooking school.
mm,
Went to cooking school, graduate at the Art Institute, went and worked in very refined French restaurants,
mm,
Italians. then the movement of new American cuisine came around
Mm.
that time when I graduate. And I attend to this dinner one time, and I was talking to one of the chefs, and he said, "What motivates you, Olivia? What's you? What's your food?
Mm.
You create amazing Italian food. You're doing all these things, but what is you? Like,
Mm.
what are you doing? What's your essence?" And then from there, I start thinking and asking a lot of my mentors. And then when I finally got the job, the dream job I wanted, the position I wanted, I was able to reach that level. And then once I got there, I said, what is next? I'm
Mm.
here what I want to be, but I'm not happy.
Mm.
And I don't see anything else beyond this line. And I took time off. I left.
Mm.
I did about 2 years on this job, and I went home. I spent there 6 months just researching about corn, basically.
Mm. So
And
you knew it was corn that you were interested in,
Mhm.
or okay.
Mexican food, because I talked to a lot of my mentors and I said, so I have this idea. What do you
Mm.
think? Most of them told me that it was not going to work. It's not going to work. We're in a land where everything is Tex-Mex and
Mm.
people won't pay for the food that you're trying to make. I said, but they're paying for seasonal, but they're paying for seasonal local ingredients. There's nothing wrong with doing the same thing with Mexican. It's not trying to say Tex-Mex is wrong. I'm trying to show what Mexican food means to me, the
Mm.
food that I grew up with. Because when I moved here, they start taking me out to eat to restaurants, and I said, well, this is not Mexican food, or at least not the food that I grew up with. And it's understandable because I start traveling a lot to the north border of Mexico, and the food from the border, it's similar to a lot of things that you'll see here. So I
Mm.
start understanding and I start connecting, and I say,
Mm.
there's no right, there's no wrong, it's
Mm.
just what it is.
Mm.
But if there's something that I want to showcase something different, no one else is going to do it besides me. If I want to show what Mexican food means to me, then I have to do it myself.
How did you think about that time when you were there and these mentors were telling you, I don't know if that's going to work. There isn't a demand for that. People aren't going to pay for that.
Mhm.
What got you through that to keep going? What kept you from giving up?
I went home, I visited my family one time, and when I came back, I say, you know what, it's time. I felt within me, I was putting everything in my job for the company that I was working for.
Yeah.
And I asked my last mentor, what do you think about this? Give it 5 years, maybe 10. So I can't
Mm.
wait 5 years. I can
Mm.
wait 10 years. So I went to Mexico, took some time off, came back, and I said, this is the time, and I gave my notice. Whether it works, it doesn't, I'm trying it. I have to move on.
And how did you get started? How did you know where to start? How did it all come about? Like you came back, you put in your notice. What did you do
So
then?
I put in my notice. I went back to Mexico and I said there's a few things I need to focus. And it's research the base of Mexican cooking, and it's
Mm.
corn. Once
Mm.
I get the base set, I can start working slowly on the rest of the things. So I did my research. I came back here with an idea, knowing what I wanted to do. And I said, well, now I need to save money to start buying equipment. I
Mm.
need to start sourcing out vendors, how to get here what I actually need, and see if
Mm.
someone actually in the US is selling heirloom corn. Because
Mm.
if no one is doing it, then I have to figure that out. I start doing my market research here. I
Mm.
got the knowledge in Mexico, so I took 6 months. Then I came here. Of course, I got another job in order for me to save money. That I say, this is not going to be 4 or 5 years. This is
Mm.
just in the meantime for me to save money and then move and then just start. I don't know how I'm going to start, but I said I'm going to do it. So I start saving money. I start buying my Molino, which it was the most important tool. I start sourcing out corn. I was lucky to find a company in LA that sells heirloom corn and distributes
Mm.
around Mexico, around the US. I say, great. It was very funny because I ended up having a Molino in we used to live in a studio. So I had a Molino there. I start having bags of corn everywhere. And then I said, okay, now I want to buy a trompo. So I went and found a trompo, a vertical broiler, and I start stocking things in the apartment until I said, well, we don't live here anymore. And I was able to start just practicing, dedicating my time off from my current job to just practice and learn even more about the corn. I just
Mm.
things doing myself. Go
And
ahead.
did you have any experience with making masa? Did you grow up making masa? Me and my mom would make tortillas at home and things like
Mhm.
that. Did you have any of that, or were you learning that as you were researching?
My grandma, I've learned a lot from her. My mom does not cook. My grandma did. She used to have a spots in the market in the little town that we are from. So once she stopped working, I had to go to the markets every morning for her. And so she was very strict.
Mm.
She taught me to pick the best. If
Mm.
not, she will send me back and return it. So I grew up seeing the process of food my whole life. She was older at the time, so she wasn't making everything from scratch, like the metate and everything like that, because she was already old. But from making tortillas, getting the masa, going to a molino to get masa, getting to know all her friends that they used to do like very specific masa work. She had friends that will do it, so I used to go and watch them. The ladies
Mm.
that make tostadas raspadas or will make sopes gordos and things like that. So I will go and get it for her. And she's the one who taught me everything,
Mm.
basically.
Oh, wow. And I
And
can hear your love for her.
yes, for her, my mother, yes.
Oh.
Yes. So going back to your question, once I went back to do my research in Mexico, I started grinding myself in her house. I used to go to her
Ah.
house, even though she passed away a long time ago, but I will go back to her kitchen and I will have my own little grinder and I will spend hours in her house just
Mm.
grinding myself and just getting to see what was gonna take me, what it was doing it by hand, and what was the timing just taking it to an actual molino.
Mm.
Just whatever used to take me 4 hours, I go to the molino in like 10 minutes. Here's your must. It's like, okay, okay. So
Mm.
I gained that experience while I was there doing my research too.
Mm. Well, and that's a really powerful image too of you grinding, learning to make this whole process from start to finish with your own grinder in her home, in her
Mhm,
kitchen, someone
mhm.
who influenced you. And what really struck me was when you said, she taught me to be disciplined in the way that you had to pick the best or she would send you back.
Yes.
I'm sure at the time you were not exactly happy about it, I would imagine.
I've learned. I've learned from it.
What a beautiful lesson.
Mhm.
And then to go back to her kitchen, I would imagine that, and you tell me how this sounds to you, like this deep sense of connection to your past, to
Mhm.
your family as you learned the craft.
Yeah, it was. I still dream about getting her pots because her pots are there. And I know each pot, like the way she used to use it. Like, I want her bean pot, but
Is it going to be a fight over who gets it?
those things have been probably in touch since she passed. But it was me just feeling like a little girl, like just me growing up in that house. With obviously my mom was always around, but she was always working. My mom raised me and my sister, and so my mom and my grandma raised both of us. So being there, it's like time never goes
Mm,
by. It feels very comfortable and
mm,
fulfilling just to be spending time there. She's
mm.
there.
Yeah. And I can imagine that gives you a deep connection and then sense of purpose as you bring this food, this corn, this masa to our area.
Yeah, it's a project that it's been taken, like it means a lot to me because
Mm,
it's like you say, it's personal. It has even more of me in the meaning from, my family, my grandmother, the town that I was born and raised. So it's something that it's inside me, it's within me that I'm just
mm.
showcasing to others.
It reminds me of and now I can't remember the name of the show and I loved it, but it's a show on Netflix. and they played the Vivaldi Four Seasons song,
Yes, chef's table.
Chef's Table. And they highlight chefs, and each one, the theme I noticed was that each chef embraced who they were authentically. I
Yeah,
think one of the Peruvian chefs was learning French food,
yeah.
but then he went back and decided to really embrace Peruvian food and bring that to Peru.
Central. Yeah, that's his restaurant, Central. I can't remember his name on the top of my head right now, but the
Yeah,
restaurant is Central, yes.
yes. And then it's just like how each of the chefs, there was a common theme, right? A lot of them went to learn in these French kitchens. Then when they connected back to who they were, what they loved, that's when something changed for them. And that's why we know them. That's why they're being featured on Chef's Table, because they have a unique point of view that they were brave enough to embrace.
Yeah, I think earning all this experience and all these kitchens and, getting my base set, it's helpful. It's very helpful.
Yes.
It also makes me learn and appreciate what we already have and the things that we couldn't see. I couldn't see that and
Mm.
appreciate that, and then
Mm.
start connecting dots. Basic sauces that I will make in the kitchen. I was like, mole, it's even harder and more refined to make. And I start connecting all those things, and it's like, well, it's the value that we give to it,
Mm.
value and the appreciation that we put into this. For instance, mole, and the way you present it, that's how people it's gonna perceive that.
And I love that you say that, that you highlight that you wouldn't have been able to look at the food, your own food in that way is if you hadn't had that other training, right? Because then you
Yeah,
have this deeper appreciation. I love that because it opened your eyes. If you'd only lived in your town and never
have
learned
less.
about, yeah, then you wouldn't have appreciated maybe as much.
Exactly.
I went to my husband's from Mexico City. And so we went to Bohol, which is famous
Okay.
for their mole. And literally it's a sauce.
Mhm.
And Bohol is one of the, if not the number one, like recognized restaurant, right? They were featured on Netflix as well. And they served it with on a plate, just the sauce and then a tortilla on the
Yeah.
side. And it was the most amazing mole I've ever had.
And you know what? You make a great point. I took my mom there. We went together, have a meal. My mom lives still in Colima. She eats that type of food every day. So we go to this restaurant. We flew to Mexico City and go there. And I say, well, what do you think? She's like, your grandma's mole is better. Why did we fly all the way to this? I say, and then she said something, she made a great point. She said, look around in the dining room. Did you see any other Mexicans in this restaurant
Mm.
besides you and I that they're sitting down? And I say, no. I say, but then there are other people that they want to try and they want, they just very curious. I say, they might never have mole before.
Mhm.
You were born with mole.
Mhm.
Mole runs through your veins, and that's probably why you are so picky and skeptical
Mhm.
about this mole. I said, I've been gone, and when I come back, if it's something that I enjoy is a good mole, and like the whole appreciation of the chef and all the work that they're putting, and it's just all this progressive movement that it's in Mexican cooking right now. She didn't see it like that. She
Mm.
saw it and she's like, no, there's better mole, there's better la la la. And I said, enjoy the restaurant, enjoy the whole
Yeah.
experience. But once we left there, because we went to other places to eat, she's like, you know what? I get you. I
Mm.
understand. I understand that you like cooking. She didn't want me to cook. She wanted me to be an accountant or something like that.
That's
um,
fascinating. Yes.
it took me a few years for her to understand that. She was never opposed. She was just like, you can do something different. Working in the kitchen is not easy. I say, Mom, I enjoy this. I really enjoy this. So that time that I took to go and do my corn research, it was time for me to spend with my mother and show her what like cooking means to me,
Mm.
the joy that brings to me.
Mm.
And once I left, she's like, fine, like you're very passionate about it. It's not for me. I don't find anything interesting about it, but if it's what makes you happy. I'm
Mm,
proud of you because you're standing up for
mm,
what you want and what
mm,
you like. So it took me a few years, and it took me to take her to a few restaurants and say, you see this? This is what I like. This is what I enjoy doing.
That's beautiful. It's interesting you said accountant because I was the first in my family to go to college and I picked accounting because I
Mhm.
wanted, like, I thought I want stability or all that thing. But it wasn't what was like, I'm a coach now, and that's what I feel my calling is. And I think there were signs probably that accounting wouldn't have been it, but I kind of ignored them. I thought, no, I don't know. I really want to do accounting. This is the right path for me or whatever. And it's just like you said, like I wouldn't have had the lens I have now without that experience.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to do the work I do today without that. So I just admire so much when someone is brave and says, this is well, first that you have the self-awareness to recognize it, right? There were
Mhm.
people that would tell me, I don't know if you'd like accounting. Are you sure you like accounting? I'm like, yes, I love accounting, even though I didn't necessarily love math, but that you had the self-awareness to realize that, no, that's not it. I love cooking and to follow that all the way through, even when your mom, who seems to be a very influential person in your life, and when
Yeah.
you love dearly, said, I don't know, you should be an accountant. That's an easier, maybe, than the harder role of cooking, maybe. Tell me, what was that like for you?
It is important to recognize, like it's sometimes you just get really involved, in your career or something. When actually in Mexico, I say, Mom, I want to go to cooking school. And she said, do you have another option? What's your second option? I say, marketing. I say, I don't want to be an accountant. Okay, so she say all the cooking schools are not close from here. They're
Mm,
probably in Mexico City or in bigger cities. I can't afford that. Okay, if you cannot afford that, then I'm gonna go to marketing school. I went to marketing school. I did 2 years. Some of the things I enjoyed them, I've learned, but then when 2 years, I was very honest to her. I
mm,
said, you know what? I'm not doing well. I'm 19 years old and I say, Mom, it's good, I'm learning, but I need to do something else.
mm,
I say, I'm passing the classes just to give you grades. And I'm 19 years old and I'm having way too much fun here. I was living in another city with
mm,
students. I don't deserve this and you don't deserve this. You're
mm,
spending way too much money for something that I might not be doing. My mom she never allowed me or my sister to work before. The rule was you work until you finish school. I said, let me work, like, let me do something. Like, I want to do something else. She's like, nope, you're not working here. That's why I'm working. That's why you're going to school. Well, I want to do more. And that's when I turned 19. I say, I'm sorry, but I have to take some time off.
mm,
Say, I told her, I will come back in 4 months. Like, let me take 4 months. I want to go work. I want to work. Let me
mm,
learn how to make my own money. I'm 19, almost 20 years old, and I've never worked. She's like, you
mm,
can work for me. I say, no, I don't want to work for you. I want to
mm,
work for someone else that it's not my mom.
mm,
She's like, where are you going to go? I say, well, I have an aunt in Dallas. Can I go
mm,
there? And so when I came, I already knew that I was going to enroll myself in cooking school because I
mm,
knew that there was the Art Institute of Dallas. That's where I graduated from. Or I went to Le Cordon Bleu. It also made me appreciate a lot of the things that I have back home
mm,
because, like I said, I never work and I started cleaning bathrooms. That was my first job, cleaning
mm,
bathrooms. And I cry. I cry so bad after I finished my first day. I say, what am I doing here? I said, I
mm,
can't waste my life. I say, there are only two ways that I'm going to stay here. If I go to school, and it has
mm,
to be cooking school. I
mm,
cannot waste my life. There's nothing wrong with cleaning bathrooms, but it gave me a great lesson. And I
mm,
say, is this what I want to do? Or am I going to move forward? I
mm,
already spent 2 years in college with a career that I haven't finished. So if
mm,
I take something now, I better take it to the end. I'm not just going to waste my time. I just
mm.
can't waste it. So I went to community college just to get my English better first. Then from there, in less than a year, I was already going to cooking school.
Wow. Well, and the reason that's a beautiful story, Olivia. And the reason I started this podcast was because I feel so passionate about helping people or inspiring people to pursue work that lights them up, that they feel passionate about, that they love, because I think that's the key to success. I
Yeah.
really believe that. And so hearing you and your commitment. So I'm sure you're there on that first day of work doing work that you never thought you'd be doing, right? Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like you knew that you came to Dallas because you had this bigger dream. And there's something just so inspiring about that. I'd love to, like, if there's someone listening who's maybe sitting at their desk listening to this interview and they just are unhappy in their work and they're listening to your story and they think, I would love to find something that I feel as passionate about, or that a little, even just a little bit more excited than I am today. What would be your advice to them? What would you say to that person listening?
That you have to find what you like and what makes you happy somehow. What it
Mm,
makes you a little more exciting than if you're sitting on a desk for 5 hours or 10
mm,
hours. But I feel like you have to be smart when you make this decision and not to
mm,
say, hey, I hate this job. I'm quitting now and not turning back. You have to take in account, okay, do I have money to spare? Do I have money
mm,
to save? Because if I just quit like that and I don't have any save money, or you're in debt or something like that, then you're gonna end up going back to the same because you're kind of desperate, just almost
mm,
taking like a desperate move. And then you realize that you don't reach out to your dream, to your goal in a month or 2 months. And then you probably are not gonna be making all the money that you expect to be making right
mm,
away.
mm,
So it's more about sit down and being very honest to yourself and being like, where do I see myself in 2 years or in 5 years? And if I don't like what I'm doing now, what's the very short term goal that you can start achieving? Like
mm,
that you can start from there and be very aware that you might not quit your job as of today, that it might take a couple months, but then you
mm,
have a plan. You're
mm,
already working something on the side, and you have to be disciplined, and you have like my day off, it's dedicated to this project that I have.
mm,
My free time is dedicated to this, whatever it is that motivates you, whatever it is that likes you, that you really like, because that's what I ended up doing. I was lucky and able to take just time off and go to Mexico for 6 months.
mm,
But if you ask me, what's your dream? I'm going to tell you, I want a restaurant. I want to
mm,
have a storefront. I want to have a Molino. I want to have a community coming together and enjoy this food. Well, I was not going to achieve that quitting my job and trying to get one opening that in 2 months.
mm.
Even it's been a work in progress. And you
Yeah.
have to be patient, very patient,
Mm,
and things might not turn the way you want right away, but it's
mm,
just like a plant. You put the seed down and you
mm.
have to make sure you nurture it, you water it, put enough nutrients in the soil, and then eventually you're going to get fruit from it. And patience has been one of the biggest lessons that I have. Just like I say, be smart about it and be disciplined, and then start taking action little by little by little.
I love that you gave the seed example. It's so perfect. One, because the work you're doing, and right behind you, for those who are listening and not watching this video, you literally are growing seeds behind you.
Yeah, we have some tomatoes that we're waiting for a second turn because now the summer is gonna get too hot, but then we have to wait until once the heat starts going down, we can grow tomatoes again. So plants also teach me a lot.
Mm,
Yeah, along the way, when I came back from Mexico, I spent a lot of my time off dedicated to my projects. And
mm,
one of them, it was grinding at home, cooking nixtamal, letting her rest, and knew that the next day I was going to be in the kitchen all day. Even though I
mm,
spent my time in the kitchen, but I was practicing something and I wanted to learn more because eventually I knew I wanted to take that direction.
mm.
Same thing I did. I went and got a plot at a community garden, and my days off, I will ride my bicycle to White Rock and spend time in my garden and learning from it.
Wow.
And you have to understand and be very aware that in order to reach, to do something else that you want to do, you have to take everything how it is. Not everything it's rainbows and butterflies. I think being consistent, being focused, and just being dedicated, it will help you.
And how do you stay, like, what helps you stay? So when those moments when it's not rainbows and butterflies and it's a low, right? How do you keep yourself going? How do you keep yourself consistent and focused? What helps you? Is there something you do? Is there someone you talk to? Or is there a practice you have that keeps you going?
I talk to my mother. And the other thing is, I know this phrase that says, when it rains, it pours.
Mm,
And you have to just like not to get so involved in this whole situation and just keep your head and your mind straight and say, this is not the ideal situation. This is not what I was expecting to happen. How am I going to fix it? I'm going to find a solution for this
mm.
and then being able to move on.
So
I,
not getting sucked into, oh, this is like the end of the world. It's almost like zooming out and saying, okay, what can I do to address this?
yeah, if something happened to us right in December, our first December in business,
Mm,
I say, great, we're going to be busy. Tamales, 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 and Christmas parties and things like that. And it was December 10, and we were getting ready for prepping for an event that we have on the 11th. And we get a call from my apartment, and it's like, well, someone broke into your apartment.
oh no.
I say, it's Marcus, okay, our dog, yes. I go, we check, and the place was unlivable. And I had an event the next day. And, say, what do we do? There's nothing that we can fix right now. And we have all these events on the calendar. I say, okay, well, what's the easiest solution? Well, call the insurance, but it's okay if we go to, say, if we rent an Airbnb, if we go to a hotel, because the insurance, your rentals insurance will eventually cover all that. Say, well, let's pack the clothes that we need,
Mm,
find a place to stay, and we go business as usual
mm,
because things will fall in place. There's nothing that we can fix right now, and there's no one that's gonna come and fix the whole door that it was broken. I know we cannot spend the night here. Nothing was really like, oh, they destroyed the apartment, but they didn't steal anything. And
yeah, and your restaurant gear wasn't there. It wasn't like your Molino was there
no,
or
we
okay.
already
Okay.
out. We
Okay.
already
Okay.
in the kitchen prepping. But I was like, I can cancel everything and be very sad and try to clean up
Mm,
everything. But then
mm,
what's gonna happen with all these events that we have
mm,
scheduled?
mm,
And it's our first holiday season in business. I cannot, where nothing happened to us.
mm,
We were healthy. Marcus was fine. So I say all the rest of the things are material. We'll find a way to recover.
mm.
We just need to find a place safe to spend the rest a week or 2 weeks, depending how long it takes for insurance, adjustment, the apartment to do something.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that I can do as of
Mm,
right now. And I
yeah.
said, well, business go as usual.
Mm,
Things got fixed. We got a bigger apartment. The insurance covers your extra expenses when you out. Yes, it's a very sad experience. You don't even know which way to go. But
mm,
that's when I'm like, is there anything that I can fix right now?
mm,
Like
mm,
if I cancel my events I have scheduled, is there actually gonna do anything? Is it
mm.
gonna fix the door? No. Am I able to stay here? No. So you just have to find solutions and kind of just not get too involved or lost. Just think, how am I fixing this? And then keep moving on.
Mm. So for listeners who don't know, tell us about what you're working on. Where are you now in your journey?
So in August, it's our first anniversary as a company. We're heading,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. We're heading to hopefully to have a storefront next year.
Wow.
That's our goal. And the company has been growing.
Mm,
Molino Olōyō, we started only making heirloom core tortillas and tamales for everyone to see it. But now the community has been engaging more with us, that they want to try different things that we make. They're like, okay, I try your tortillas, I try your tamales. let's do a catering. And they're happy trying our different things of food or different things that we offer. And we change seasonally a lot. And it's been a great response for the community. We still sell tamales and tortillas, but we're expanding our market even more.
So amazing. So if somebody wants to work with them in the Dallas area, they want to learn more about your food, where they could buy some of the food or even book you. Okay, could someone book you for an event?
Yes, yes.
Um,
We don't even have a website. The best way to find us is on Instagram,
okay.
Molino Olōyō. Message us directly. My phone number is there. We are located on the Sign District. We do our pickups there. We do offer a lot of private dinners. I really enjoy, that's one of the things I love doing. We do a lot of course style dinners from 10 to 11 courses. Or
Wow.
if you say, Olivia, you know what, can you bring tacos? Then we go and serve tacos. It's the good and the flexibility that we have right now.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm going to link your Instagram in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Lupe. I hope I get to meet you in person sometime.
Yes, yes.